I'll move.
You doing it by yourself?
No, I have
One helper still?
And she's
Oh,
also.
not really.
Well, you replaced that one. Who did you order? Who did you hire?
Oh, I was Trevor Dick, and I got a part-time with it. The monitor's paying help spouse.
Oh, because he's there.
Ready? And she's
Good.
she's like a bull.
I like it.
I want a permanent one, is what I'd like to
Does that make sense?
say. I mean, generally. I'd like to have a permanent one to keep it.
That's the ideal world, isn't it?
Because I went to her and said, we're getting $15
I'm going to call the Tipton Common Council meeting to order and begin with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
No comment?
Thank you. First item on the agenda are the minutes from the last meeting.
I move to approve September 22nd meeting minutes as written.
So motion and a second to approve the minutes from the September 22nd meeting as presented. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Any amendments to the agenda this evening? Hearing none, this is the first meeting of the month. We'll begin with the Board of Works and Safety.
We met today. The first thing we did was approve an alley closure. It's a second or third year for West Street Christian, closing some of the alleys for Halloween from 4 to 8. We also looked at some financing for a new trash truck. Since the rates have increased and we're looking at getting a second trash truck. We got some information from the Indiana Bond Bank. The new trash truck would be financed at 4.24% for 7 years, which is $55,000 roughly a year, almost $10,000 less than we budgeted, and would prolong the life of the current truck. And Dylan has put a lot of money fixing the current trash truck, so that should get us in a good spot. Cemetery and Park, I'll let those boards give their updates, but a lot of business as usual. Planning Department, we had an order to appear, but everything was actually cleaned up by the time that petitioner was here, so no big deal. A couple other demolitions are finalized on Washington Street. Condemned house at 422 or 423 Sweetland. So there was an order to demolish on that home. It was, I think, in partnership with the health department. Let's see. Tipton Arts Commission, we got an update from them. They've finalized their master plan and finished up the artist in residence. Landon Caldwell put together a 13-minute video that we're hoping to get access to for the city beyond just the screening so other people can see it. CCMG, the West Street project's wrapping up. They had a walkthrough. Some of it will be completed this year. Seeding for some grass will be completed next year. East Jackson and Independent Street projects moving along. And yeah, that's about it. The rest of the stuff can be reported by the committees.
Very good. Next is Cemetery Board.
So our meeting was canceled, this past one, according to her report. We've had 2 barrels, 3 cremations, and 1 lot sold at $1,200.
Very good. Park Board.
I had a question about that. Can we get that in our,
It would be with your Board of Works.
The cemetery?
cemetery? It hasn't moved.
It's still there.
First cemetery. Maybe this is trivial. On page 1, 2. Page 1 of 1, occupant list with grave status. I don't need that, that's none of my business. Do with it as you please, but that's just my thoughts.
Just removing it from the packet.
Well, I just made my feelings known, you know. It's not my call to
heard.
Moving to Park Board, provide that committee report, or board report rather. So we welcomed a new member to the Park Board. Sophia Pfeiffer had to resign from the Park Board, and Sadie Lundy was then appointed to serve in that final capacity. So there's likely to be some reorganization. Sadie comes with really a great deal of interest serving on the Park Board. I think she's going to take a leadership role within the board itself. So I think there's going to be a little bit of reorg, as Gina Massey was pretty excited to give up the secretary position and take on the vice president role. And Sadie is likely going to backfill her in that secretary position. Again, that's to be actually completed next month, but that was a discussion that was had. So we welcome Sadie and her energy. And then they also approved, as is required for some of the action today presented to the council today, they approved the appropriation resolution in regards to the Park District Bond. Next is Utility Board.
Manager Ankrum reported that he has directed Crown and Associates to complete a study on the current rates for the water and wastewater. There's still some cleanup work being done out at 2831, and the safety program is continuing to keep everything updated on, like a lot of the equipment, like electric department has to wear certain gloves. They have to be tested frequently, things like that. And I think our biggest thing going right now is try to finish up East Street. And that's going well.
Correct. That concludes our committee and board reports for this evening. Jumping down to new business, we have Halloween hours.
My favorite thing we ever did.
It is traditional for the city of Tipton to do 2 nights. Is there any opinion to alter that tradition? The next question then would be proposing for the 30th and 31st to be a Thursday and a Friday.
Sounds good.
Any objection to that? And then time. Traditionally, it's 5 to 7.
Yeah. Isn't that early?
5 to 8 a.m.
I was gonna say, I thought it was later.
Oh, 5 to 8. 5 to 8 p.m. Yeah, because they usually finish up after dark.
Yeah.
5 to 9 both days.
5 to 8.
5 to 8 was the presentation.
AM for
Damn.
5 AM till 9 PM.
I think it's a great idea.
The council president's lead.
Yeah.
Get them wired.
So is there any objection to any of that? So we have 2 nights, October 30th and October 31st, both nights from 5 to 8 p.m.
So moved for those hours.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve Halloween hours for 2025, starting on October 30th from 5 to 8 p.m. and finishing on October 31st from 5 to 8 p.m. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Any opposed?
Yeah, I'd like you mentioned something. Aren't we doing something downtown with all the businesses for home?
I believe the Main Street, I think, and the chamber are partnering on that.
Yeah,
The library is,
nice for the kids.
yeah, the library normally
For
does
the
it, and they are closed and not doing it this year, so they asked for us for some help, Shelley specifically. So the Main Street and the Chamber are gonna do it together, and then, I mean, we're just asking the businesses that be downtown, we don't need any street closures or anything, just good normal. How it works.
I just wanna
We've
mention
been
that
with the
for the
sheriff's
kids.
department, police department already, just to let them know that we plan to keep it going, but should be pretty simple, as always.
Very good. No items under old business. Under mayor's report, the 2 things reported in the Board of Works that I discussed. 2 projects, Baseball project currently working in the next to have an application to DNR in the next 30 days for their consideration. The longest part is likely going to be DNR's review of that. They could take up to 90 days during that review process. Again, we were offered a non-modeling permit application from DNR, which saves us time in the review process. It could take us upwards of 9 months if we had to go through the modeling process. So that's on track. We're on schedule to get some development designs this week, which will then create opportunities to have discussions with contractors and subcontractors to put us in a position to break ground as soon as we get that permit from DNR. The second is the public safety building was officially kicked off last Monday. They began some work last week and continue their expectation if weather cooperates and they don't have any challenges with getting materials is to finish that project toward the end of April. So that project, as expected, is going to last a couple of months. There is some exterior work that could get adjusted based on weather, but they're trying to prioritize and get materials as soon as possible. So while the weather is nice, we can get that project completed. Moving then to the resolutions and ordinances section of our agenda. The first is resolution 2025-24. It's a resolution to transfer within a general fund for the sanitation budget. This is decreasing gasoline, $5,000, and increasing repair equipment. As Councilman Kring noted from the Board of Works and Safety, there's some additional repairs to repair equipment. So this transfer allows that to get paid.
I'll make a motion that we accept resolution 2025-24.
Second.
Motions and a second to approve resolution 2025-24. Any further discussion?
Who made the second?
Rick's fine.
All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next is resolution 2025-25. It's a resolution to transfer within a general fund, the fire budget. This is largely in response to one of the firefighters being injured, and we're likely going to have additional wages for overtime. So we were able to pay off the fire truck lease payment early using some other funds. So it shifts the funds from that line item, 455, $39,771 to increase line item 112, firefighter wages, the commensurate $39,771.
We know when he may return. I know it was a pretty severe injury.
Several weeks. I can't remember if it was 12 weeks. He was going to be ruptured his Achilles, so he's
Right.
going to be out for.
Then he probably will be on light duty, or
That's something we've actually had discussions on defining internally. Probably dates back a couple months. We're trying to define: do we have a light duty policy? Today we don't have that policy, but as he gets closer to returning, we'll probably have to introduce some light duty policy. And
3 months is pretty short.
correct.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 25-25.
Say that.
We have a motion and a second to approve resolution 2025-25. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Next is resolution 2025-26, a resolution to transfer within the general fund. This is for golf grounds. This is decreases in part-time wages, $5,000, a decrease in gravel and sand, $3,179.04, and then an increase in repair parts, $5,000, and an increase in other equipment, $3,179.04. So as he finishes out the year to get his equipment, to acquire some additional equipment, but then also make those additional repairs to equipment.
I'll make a motion that we accept resolution 2025-26.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve resolution 2025-26. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. The next is resolution 2025-27. It's a resolution approving the issuance of bonds of the City of Tipton Redevelopment District. And we have with us Steve Unger with Bose McKinney & Evans and Justin Chang with Reedy Financial to get a little more information background for your consideration.
Good evening, everybody. Steve Unger again, Bose McKinney Evans. Good to see you guys again. This is really, this time of the year, we work with a lot of communities. We work with Reedy, we work with Baird, who's the underwriter on this. We work with communities on identifying ways to fund capital projects. You get to the end of the year, you start to see what your tax rates and tax levies are gonna be. And you look at projects that need to be done by the community. We work with the mayors and all town councils and all the communities around the state and look at projects that, where are the opportunities to fund capital projects? What are the needs of the city? What are the projects they want to do? What are the best ways to fund those? So we have conversations with the mayor, with Reedy and with Baird, and look at what's the most efficient ways to fund projects. The city has, because of other debt rolling off, being reduced, the city has the opportunity to issue additional debt. So we work with the mayor, and he identified in particular some parks projects I know they talked about earlier that he wants to do in terms of paving some roads, maybe doing some trails and some other things, and also some projects for extending the West Industrial Drive Road for an economic development project. And so we look at what's the most efficient way to do that and split that out. And what we came up with was doing a parks bond and a redevelopment commission bond. I'm talking about them together. The processes are very similar. I know later on in your agenda, we have the ordinance for approving the Parks District bond, but we're kind of running them all together parallel. So we're just doing really one issuance, but two series, one of which is a redevelopment commission bond by statute that's issued by the redevelopment commission and approved by the council by resolution. So you guys have to approve that by resolution, whereas a Parks District bond, different statute, similar, there's some nuances in the statute, but it has to be approved by council by ordinance, which is why you have that one on your agenda tonight as an introduction only. But then at I think your October 23rd council meeting, 27th council meeting, we would come back and have final approval on that meeting. We also have a RDC and Parks Board meetings, public hearings actually scheduled for that night. They'll need to hold public hearings before they finally adopt it. So where we ended up on this one based off the projects and opportunities to fund it is a $1.4 million bond for the RDC and a $750,000 bond for the Parks Department. So about 2.15 million total. Those would be over 20 years. The materials authorized up to 6%. It's really more going to be about 4.25%. The underwriters will basically go out to all of the banks and get quotes from all of the banks that they deal with, and whatever the lowest interest rate is the bank that we would work with on that. And that's how they would sell the bond. But we always authorize more than what we're actually expect it's going to be, just so that we have flexibility to do whatever we need to close on them. So, but ultimately where this is, and what Justin's numbers will show is that, I mean, really, it's like your mortgage payment. We're keeping the city's mortgage payment the same because there was going to be a drop off in it. This allows it, it'll continue to be the same, but because of changes in increases in assessed value, everybody's rate will still be lower. The total debt rate will be lower than it was this year. Next year, even with these, the rate will be lower. Really, your principal and interest payment will stay the same. So I'm happy to answer questions. I know you can work through. I don't know if you want to hand out. He has the reports.
Yeah, I'm Justin with Reedy Financial Group. I've been working with Reedy for about 5 years, and this is not the first Tipton bond that we're working on. I believe I worked on 2 other ones, so I do have some familiarity with the city and the city's projects. And as Steve and Mayor mentioned earlier, this is 2 bonds, but when we started this project, it was actually just 1 bond, but due to SCA 1 and to increase flexibility moving forward, if there are new projects that we have in mind, putting these into 2 smaller bonds is actually more beneficial to the city than to clump it all under 1 bond. And really, the project amounts are very similar between 1 and 2 bonds. So if we want to just go ahead and look at page 5, I know there was a question earlier regarding debt rates, debt levies, and whether that will increase taxes or not. So I'm just going to go straight to, let's look at about 1/3 down from the page. You'll see a total debt rate levy. That essentially is how much debt the city is paying year over year. That's the levy, how much we're expecting to collect every year in property taxes for debt itself. You'll see in 2025 to 2026, in that blue line, that 2024 RDA lease, it goes from 274,780 down to 145,000 in 2026. So that decrease is what we're using to issue these bonds off of. So at the very bottom, you'll see that 699, 670, that's what we're trying to keep level, that debt levy. So yes, we're issuing bonds, but that's because some bonds have fallen, or their payments have fallen off, and we're just issuing a debt to cover that levy. Now, usually with SB1, we say we be conservative and say we're not growing. In fact, in some communities where ABs are going down, but you'll see in very top assessed values from 25 to 26, ABs actually went up by almost $20 million this year. That is roughly 7.5%. With that said, if we go to about midway through that page, total city rate percent change, you'll see the city's tax rate actually goes down from 2.23 down to 2.15. So yes, we are issuing that, but because we're keeping the levy level and AB has gone up, tax rates are actually decreasing. The next page is debt fund analysis. I don't need to go too much into this. It's essentially that yellow bar is what you really all need to focus on. It just means these two bonds added together will be about 8 cents and change on the city's tax rates. And it's expected to go down in future years because we're sizing this bond front loaded, meaning the first year will have a higher debt amount than future years. And then the next 4 pages are just the sources and uses and the amortization schedule for the bonds itself. These are preliminary. We still need to sell the bonds with Baird, like Steve mentioned earlier. One thing to keep in mind is that cost of issuance of $100K and the interest rate. Again, those are all preliminary. Those are actually probably higher than what we're expecting, just to make sure we give the debt fund analysis, all that, enough space, just in case there's a little bit here, a little bit there that is higher than our expectations. Any questions?
I have 2 questions, one for Steve, one for Justin.
Yes.
One bond is for the park, which is technically a separate taxing entity. One bond's for the RDC. Do both of these count towards the city's overall debt service?
So the complicated question, both are separate taxing entities.
Correct.
Right, and so you are having, the RDC is issuing debt that stays under its constitutional debt limit.
Right.
You are having the Parks Board issue debt that stays under its constitutional debt limit. The city has its own separate constitutional debt limit. Ultimately, it all goes in an overall rate that everybody in the city is going to pay. So it's separate entities with their own separate debt and own separate debt rate, all of which has to be approved by the council. But to the typical taxpayer, it's just a tax rate, an overall tax rate.
Correct, to them.
Yes.
Correct. And that, so for Justin, this assumption too says no overall net assessed value change, which is conservative. I understand that. One bond is for parks, which parks are parks. We're not going to get there's no ROI dollar for dollar, but for the new project in the industrial park, we're committed to not doing it unless there's a signature from a committed prospect. So my question would be, what's the ROI? If we spend 1.4, what are we projecting in property tax back from that project over the next 20 years for the life of the bond?
So the projected TIF revenues from that prospect are estimated currently at $3 million. So
Over 20 or
over 20 years.
so a net of 1.6.
Correct.
We spend 1.4. That doesn't account for time value money or anything. But
Right.
Do we have a certain company now that's gonna be coming in? Do we know there's already somebody definitely interested in coming into it?
Yes.
My belief is yes. And that we wouldn't, Keegan's comments in the work session is we wouldn't actually issue the bond until they committed and like actually moved forward with the project.
Yeah, it won't be speculative spend.
We don't want to
It
build
won't
a road and then nobody comes in and we're paying on a bond that didn't actually give us any more property tax.
If we have a certain company, do we know how many jobs it's gonna create or?
We have a current list of those expectations from them, yes. 15, is that you're asking the question? Yeah, 15 new jobs.
About 15 new jobs?
Mm.
Okay. What do you think the projected increase in the tax revenue will be from
1.6. So if it's
from
three,
15 jobs?
if it's three, no, not from income tax, just from property tax.
Property tax.
So if we're gonna do this, the projected gain in property tax is 3 million, but we're gonna pay 1.4 to get it for a net gain of $1.6 over 20 years. So the income tax, if they live here, which we
Correct.
hope, would just be
So
extra.
if we do the bond, there'll be enough money come in that
And then
pays
some.
for the bond.
There would be 1.6 left over in the TIF revenue. It's gonna cost us 1.4. It's gonna net 3 million over the same life of the bond. So 1.6 in TIF revenue, which you can, then you can have the discussion of where do you spend that, or is it a pass through to the taxing entities or whatever. You spend
And some of the
it.
challenge that we have is because we were so late in the game to adopt TIF, Mayor Dilsel being the first to create a TIF district in the city of Tipton. Other communities have more flexibility in their redevelopment commissions that they don't require this style of debt to do these types of projects. So the fact that we don't have a lot of sophistication around our TIF strategy and now revenues has been some of the limitations. So this actually sets us on a good trajectory that we'll actually have revenues that gives us more flexibility in the future for these types of projects.
Okay, another thing I was concerned about, how much debt do we have right now as far as bonds and stuff like that? And how much are we allowed to be in debt with the bonds?
Yes, I could actually answer that question. On page 4 of that, this actually touches what Steve was referring to with that debt limit. Look at page 4, these are all the property tax debt that the city has issued payable by the city's property tax. And when I say city, that includes the city, RD, and Park District. And you'll see on here, I have listed 3 different, CDL means constitutional debt limit. Each taxing unit has their own debt limit, but the calculation is really the same. It's just 1/3 of 2% of the NAVs. So we look at 2025, we have 243,000, and we take 1/3 of 2%. That's $1.6 million. You'll see there's a general obligation bond 2022. There's $505,000 of that left in the city's debt limit. That means the city could still issue another $1.1 million in debt. Now, because RD and Park are new, they do not currently have property tax debt back towards it, property tax bonds payable by them. So there's no constitution, there's there are no outstanding bonds going against that debt limit. So you'll see that $1.6 million is remaining about halfway through the page. After issuing these 2 bonds, the 1.3 for the RD, 700,000 for the Park, there will be about $258,000 left to issue debt on the RD and 900,000 on the Park District.
Now, is this debt including the ball diamonds we done?
It would.
Oh, because it's a different
No, because
mechanism.
those are
Leases.
leases,
Leases,
so they
okay.
don't fall under your constitutional debt limit.
Okay.
But if you look at the next page, when we're talking about, when he has his pro forma, his debt levy pro forma, he has in there, so like in 2025, you'll see the 2022 GO debt, and then he has the RDA lease. So that's included in here. So when we talk about what I call your mortgage payment,
Right.
it's included in your mortgage payment, and your mortgage payment's going to stay level, even with the issue of these new bonds. But that legally doesn't apply to your constitutional debt limit, and that's part of when we do these, and when we're doing these every year, we're trying to figure out what, based off the projects that the city wants to do, based off your constitutional debt limit, what's the easiest and most efficient way to issue debt, and kind of for what you want to do, and based off of what we came up with here in terms of parks and the roads, we thought the best way to do it was through the redevelopment district bond and the parks district bond.
So we still have what, 1.17 million that we can go in debt, is that correct?
Just for this, the go bond. If we
Just
were
on
to
the
go
city
bond.
side, that's what's
Total would
available.
be,
So this wouldn't be
2
the
million.
part and this both, because that's 2.15 million.
if we wanted to issue, regardless of, correct me if I'm wrong, wherever we put the debt, if it was from the general fund, RD, or the park district, you would add all three issuance margins together, and technically you could probably issue over the 900,000, or no?
No,
So you can,
you
they're
gotta
in these
treat them all
buckets.
differently.
So the city could borrow 1.1, RDC could borrow 258, and the park could borrow under 900,000.
Now that can change next year based off assessed values and how things change.
Right.
But as of this year, yes.
But-
And in all cases, they have to come back to the council to get approval to do that.
But to be super clear, because we paid off other debt and we're adding new debt, the payments stay the same, but because our net assessed value went up, every dollar we collect of property tax, the portion of that goes to debt actually shrunk.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's a good thing for the taxpayer.
Yes. Yeah.
Again, we can have the argument of, should we just not do the debt and not have any debt? But I think there's some issues around, if we don't keep our debt service at a certain level, we could lose.
I think it can affect things like total levy goes into how you allocate income tax, for example,
Right.
things like that. So it definitely is to the city's benefit to use all of your rate when you can.
Yeah, we've been given that guidance for
Yeah.
all 6 years I've been on the council. That it's good to maintain at least your minimum or the current debt service level that you have.
Yeah.
I think the county was given that same guidance too. Joe could probably attest to that.
So the company that you've been speaking with that's coming in, it's a definite they're coming.
Correct. We're to the point now where there's details to figure out once we get the property in the ownership of the city, transferred it to the RDC to get through an economic development agreement. But yes, this is at least firm enough that I feel confident and presented this to the council so that we have the capacity to build the road.
So if something does change, this company backs out, just like many of them do it. We don't necessarily take this out then,
We don't have to build the road, correct?
but we take the bond out if we pass this now.
Correct.
So we still make payments on it, even if they change.
Yeah. So you would have 3 years, and there's caveats to that, but generally the rule is we would have 3 years for IRS tax purposes because these are tax exempt bonds to spend this money. So if that were to happen, which hopefully it wouldn't, that's not the expectation, but if that were, you'd be looking at being able to use that for other similar type purposes in the redevelopment district, which outlines in the project scope here outlines using it for road infrastructures and related infrastructure. So that's what we'd be looking at using it for.
Yeah, we also don't just have one prospect in our pipeline. This is just the one furthest along in the pipeline. So worst case scenario, there's still others that we're working with currently that could, if this one falls off, there's still several more behind it that we're in conversation with.
Now with the road we're building, could you do multiple places out there where you're talking about?
We are adjusting the
In other
road
words, if this
to,
one took it, some downline, can they also go in also?
correct, so that we want to continue to work westward with the expansion, but then this will help. There will be a space for additional prospects
Okay.
with the extension. And that's actually some of what we're working on right now.
But that'll be under the authority of the redevelopment commission, right?
Yes, because the property will,
Property will be titled to the redevelopment.
correct, eventually, yes.
And they'll be responsible for satisfying the bond through the TIF.
No, this will be through,
Through their tax, they'll be responsible for satisfying it through their tax rate,
Okay,
through the tax rate.
that's established.
correct.
I make a motion to approve resolution 2025-27.
Second.
I think Rich seconded that. There's a motion and a second to approve resolution 2025-27. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye. Any opposed?
I haven't had time to go through it, so.
One opposed? Moving to ordinances this evening, ordinance 2025-11, ordinance for Form 4 adopting the 2026 budget, second and final reading.
Make a motion to approve ordinance 2025-11.
We have a motion and a second to approve ordinance 2025-11 on second and final reading. Any further discussion?
Yes, I do have some questions because I'm learning the budget. On here, and Joe maybe will help me some too. Like on the general fund. On line 14, it says budget total revenue coming in is $7,254,472. And then total expense is $9,022,205, which leaves a deficit of about 1.7 in the whole. And I just wasn't sure.
Which form is that?
It's on the
Yeah, the form. Is that
budget.
the form? Yeah, but which form?
It's the general.
It's the Form 4 though, which is the max advertised rates and expenditures.
The general one.
It's not your actual budgeted.
140.
Yeah.
Can you repeat your numbers again so I know where you're
Okay.
looking?
On the year revenue was $7,254,472. It says total expenses was $9,022,205, which would leave us in a negative of 1.7 million.
You gotta include your line 9.
So is that money that's left over from this year?
Mhm.
That's where it throws me off. I don't.
Because it's an 18-month budget. That's what I was trying to explain earlier. It's an 18-month budget. So you have to figure,
But like next year, if we had the same budget and we don't have no money left over, then where do we get it from?
you have to cut your budget.
Okay. So it's line 9 would make up the difference in the 1.7. Okay. So that's money left over from this year then.
Or cuts made from this year.
That's made from this
Yeah,
year.
and or, yeah. Shouldn't say cuts. I should say a department projects spending X out of a line item and they know they're gonna spend only 20% of X, let's say. And they say, look, I won't need all this money. You can take it out of this year's budget, which gives us more cushion for the end of the year or next year. They're not cuts. I mean, it's not like we're firing people or anything like that, cutting positions.
You're reducing.
Correct.
You're
So
reducing
that's
the
a
appropriations.
not a cut, a reduction.
That's what we did last meeting. We reduced the appropriations in the general fund.
Yeah, I seen where we done the 600,000. I knew that one.
And so when you reduce the appropriations in the general fund for 2025, that offsets that line 9,
Okay.
which is December 31st balance. Okay, that helps fund your 2026 budget.
So this is money that's gonna be left over on December 31st of 25.
If you spent everything
Right.
that you have appropriated and you got the same amount of revenue as what we estimated it to be, that's what it would be.
So if we spend over, something happens, we spend over that money,
Then
it's not
it's-
there.
It's gonna be, your cash will be less. You can't spend over unless you do an additional appropriation, but you
Right.
could, your revenue might not come in as much as what you think it should, that we estimated.
Okay.
What is it you wanted me to help you with?
Because you was talking about the 18th and 12 months, and I figured you know it better than I do, because I can still walk.
Well, I don't have a problem with the budget, it's just, but I think everybody does. I've got a problem with the process, but I don't have a problem with the budget. But that's just, I was just kind of brought up in county government, that it just seemed to me like it was so much something. But I don't have a problem with the budget, the numbers.
Okay. Well, now that I see line 9, that should be left over.
Sure.
That makes a little bit more sense. Okay. Thank you for that answer.
So we have a motion and a second to approve ordinance 2025-11 on second and final reading. All those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Abstain.
I oppose.
Motion passes.
Rich, did you abstain?
Yes.
Next is ordinance 2025-12, ordinance setting the salaries for elected officials for the year 2026 as required by IC 36-4-7-2, second and final reading.
I move we approve ordinance 2025-12 as written.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve ordinance 2025-12 on second and final reading. All those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye.
Nate, did you second?
Yes.
Okay, sorry.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next is ordinance 2025-13, ordinance setting maximum salaries, wages, and other compensation for police officers, firefighters, and all other employees of the city of Tipton for year 2026, second and final reading.
I move to approve ordinance 2025-13.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to approve ordinance 2025-13 on second and final reading. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next is ordinance 2025-14, ordinance amending ordinance 94-04, which was amended by ordinance 2011-03 for the Golf Capital Improvement Fund for second and final reading.
I move we approve ordinance 2025-14.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve ordinance 2025-14 on second and final reading. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Last ordinance of the evening, ordinance 2025-15, ordinance approving the issuance and sale of special taxing district bonds by the city for and on behalf of the Parks and Recreation District of the city of Tipton.
I move to approve 2025-15.
Second.
I got some questions.
Yep, we have a motion and a second to approve ordinance 2025-15 on first reading. Any further discussion?
Yes. When we first established the park board, I know we talked about so we could get grants, DNR, different places like that to help out the park to do things, which I was totally against the tax rate from the park, and I said that back then. Because this would be a new tax.
No,
No, it's the
No.
same as the
The
other.
park board would not.
Correct.
this is not a levy of a tax from the park board. It's an issuance of debt from the city
Okay.
under the park board district.
Now, but with this tax,
It's not a tax.
it's not.
It's not a new tax, no. We've retired old debt and now we're borrowing to bring the debt level back to where it was previously. That's all it is. So we're not actually collecting a park tax. Now we could in the future, talked about that. In my estimation, it'll eventually happen, especially now with SEA 1. But this is not levying a tax for the park. The park board is not going to collect a tax because of this.
Okay. So like where the library has their own tax, the school has a tax, everything else, this will not affect the school or the libraries. The
I
amount of
didn't-
taxes they collect.
No, we're borrowing against our future revenue.
Okay.
And it is not a new tax from the park board, which I think would have to have an impact, tax impact done to the taxing entities. That's my understanding. Correct me if I'm wrong.
You would not have to do a tax impact statement on that. It won't, you are, I don't know, that's a more lengthy analysis. It's not required on
No,
these.
but this is not a tax increase from the tax board itself. We're
It's,
borrowing against property tax.
it's all following, it all falls under the purview of the council. That's why you have to come to the council to get approval for it.
Now, that's not to say, Tim, that the park board won't decide this year, next year, and 5 years to levy their own tax because they can.
Okay, and that's what I was thinking this was, is
No.
where they was levying their tax.
But I see that as only a matter of time.
This bond falls under the same as the other bond did, didn't it?
Correct.
Bond 3, yeah.
Yeah, this is all being
Yeah,
done together in
exactly.
one, correct. And to issuing tax, they need your approval as well.
Right.
They need Council's approval.
Thank you, sir.
We have a motion and a second to approve ordinance 2025-15 on first reading. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next on our agenda are claims.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve for payment claims 180505 through 180666 in the amount of $5,613,172.38.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve claims this evening. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Aye.
One abstention. Motion passes. We're now at petitions, comments, and memorials.
Hi, guys.
Hello.
How are you?
Well,
Hey, you.
Good. I'm Abby Ripper. I'm 34 Columbia Avenue. I have a couple of questions. A couple of questions about some stuff we talked about tonight, and then a couple of questions about some stuff we talked about last week. I will start with the stuff we talked about last week. The planning commission. Did you say, correct me if I'm wrong, but the reason we are separating that city versus county is because we believe the county's going to an area plan? Did I understand that correctly?
I would say that's one of the reasons,
Okay.
not the only reason, but correct. If and when a county decides that they're going to follow through with that plan, the city was going to have to start its own planning commission. So this is more proactive in that conversation.
Okay, so if and when, so, because from what I'm understanding from them is that that is not the intention.
Correct.
Okay.
That would be a change from last year. So this has been
It
a,
was just a couple of weeks after you guys said it.
sure.
I just went and asked some questions because I just hadn't had that covered. I didn't know, to be fair. I was like, well, what does that mean? Why are we doing that? So I went and asked them and they said that is not in the plan at all. The planning department. I just walked into the courthouse and asked. Was there somebody else I should ask?
Pardon?
Would you recommend somebody else?
No,
No,
no, I
okay.
just, them and they's.
Sure. The planning department.
Okay.
I checked with the planning department. Figured that was probably my safest resource there. And then I asked some questions about what Paige's job entails because again, last week or 2 weeks ago, you had mentioned, Mr. Mayor, that she would maintain her current duties.
Mhm.
So crosswalk, court, and this isn't a full job description of Paige's, right? But
All right.
crosswalk, court documents, parking issues, admin, animal control, and then additionally, she'll be in code enforcement here for the planning department.
Correct.
All of those things. So we're adding quite a bit, assumably, to her job description, right?
The responsibility is specific to the police department. So administratively transferring the records, for example, from the police department to the courthouse, that's not a responsibility she will continue to serve.
Okay.
But the ones related to the crosswalk, animal control, abandoned vehicles, other code enforcement activities she currently does, those will remain with the position.
Okay.
as
And
it
then
transfers.
adding some additional,
Correct.
are we increasing her salary at all?
There is a consideration, an increase in that.
So, yes.
Correct. Yes.
Abby, do you mind if I follow up on something? you
No,
just
go
asked?
ahead.
When she transfers over here, don't she lose most of the titles from the police station at that point? She won't have a radio, stuff like that. She won't be able to call in license plates.
she won't have a police issued radio, but she'll still have a radio that operates on similar or the same frequencies.
Okay, because I was hearing that she wouldn't be able to call in license plates, do things like that with her not being in that job description too. I didn't know if that was true.
That's a detail we're following up on to understand that, but that was brought to our attention after the last meeting.
Okay.
Sorry, Abby.
No, that's okay. That's a good point. I mean, I'm not a police officer. I'm not 100% sure. I am a mom whose kid goes to school out here. So the crosswalk thing is, yeah, I see her out there every single day.
Correct.
Okay. And then the other question that I had for today, and Nate, you actually just made me think of it while you were speaking here. Two things about the bonds we're taking out. One, the one that we're taking out for the RDC, I mean, I did quick math, so tell me if I'm wrong. That number that you're saying, we're taking out the 3 million,
1.4.
1.4, but to make 1.6, right?
Correct.
But that doesn't account for the interest we're paying on that, right?
Probably not. Although the bond payments are total for 1.4, and if we get a 4%, it'd
Yeah,
even
it's
that.
$796,177 over 20 years.
Yeah.
So that nets us about 80 grand.
And that's assuming, I think that's also assuming no increase in net assessed value of that property
Okay,
as well. So
so it could change.
could, yeah. I mean, it's all in ROI. That's what we're trying to think
Have
of.
the values of those properties changed significantly over the last 20 years?
I can't attest to those, but we know our net assessed value increased 19 million this year between this year and last.
So
So
that
things are
changed.
projecting up.
Okay. And then with the park bond, if we're not increasing taxes or if they're not levying a tax, how are we paying that back? Isn't there some verbiage in the ordinance?
No, so I guess the best way to try to explain it is assume you have a mortgage for X and a car loan for Y. You paid off your car loan for Y and now you want a new car. You're going to buy it for the same price and you're going to have the same payment. So your overall debt didn't go up. We just retired old debt and we're paying for it out of the net assessed value property taxes.
Okay, I do understand with that as far as that goes. I mean, I run a budget, obviously in a couple different places. So I guess my thought is that in that ordinance, does it not state that the park can issue a tax?
No. It doesn't say in that ordinance.
Okay.
It says it in the statutory park ordinance we passed. They set
Okay.
up a statutory park board.
Okay,
And they would have to come to us if they wanted to levy a tax for approval still.
okay. And is that something where, I mean, you said that you anticipate that coming shortly, so it's something.
No, I don't know about
taxpayers can
shortly.
expect?
I don't know about shortly, and that's a community appointed board. If those 4 community members think that that's the best option for the community and want to give it to the council, fine. But like anything in government, and we set it, once you set up the ability to tax, it could be 1 year, it could be 21 years. It's eventually going to tax.
And that was the resolution that the council passed, right?
So last year,
The
or was
ability
it-
to-
The ordinance,
for them to
yeah,
be able to
last year.
tax.
it
Okay.
made them a statutory park board, which gives them the authority to levy a tax.
Okay.
It also gives them the authority and ability to get grants
But
and
how,
stuff like that.
thank you. Good lead up. What is the total amount of grants they've gotten to date?
They haven't received any.
Okay,
So the trails grants, this will be the last year. That date expired in October. And to our understanding, that grant opportunity will cease. And then the other one that we had our eye on was the water and conservation grant. That one also goes away. So the state of Indiana used those funds that were available this year and actually reinvested those back into the state parks across the state of Indiana. And then moving forward, it has not been formally eliminated. That's actually controlled by the federal level, but there's a high degree of suspicion that that was going to be eliminated.
okay. So there won't be, I mean, obviously something could come up, right? But then the grants that we were hoping would be available to the park board are no longer, potentially.
Potentially.
Did we get a grant for the?
There's still,
playground equipment?
pardon, what?
Do what?
What did you ask?
Did we get a
Playground
grant for the new?
equipment,
Correct.
playground equipment?
Correct.
But that wasn't through the.
It wasn't through the DNR.
Right, that was through the company itself, correct?
Correct.
So more like a discount maybe? Is a better way to say that?
No, because there was some application piece to it.
Okay,
So the discount would be by merit of purchase. This had at least some application piece to it.
okay. Okay. Was there,
There's still some federal grant dollars associated to parks, but our focus is more on the statewide because competition, frankly, would be less than federal, but as we're starting to see, more of these are getting more and more competitive, but we're still keeping our eye on those.
Okay.
And we'll expect changes in the administration, specifically around trails, just because it's been a successful program. So still puts us in position to be competitive.
We're gonna put a trail behind Pizza Shack CrossFit and the new Casa de Caddy. Yeah. Everybody's shaking their
I
head.
like
Not
it.
you. You don't want that trail?
No, I just had a trail from 30th Street all the way to Bunker Hill, but I'm not.
That'd be nice.
I'll put them anywhere you want
You've
them.
got the railroad right out,
Right.
and it goes all the way to Michigan City if you want to, go ahead.
I think we should. Are you gonna champion that?
My portion, my part.
Okay, thank you guys, appreciate it.
Thanks.
I did have
Oh
when
boy.
the park board, probably no one here remembers this, when the park board was an entity, were they a taxing entity then?
Yes. When they set it up, we got that info and then ended up disbanding the statutory park board. That there wasn't enough.
25 years ago,
I was in the 80s.
Yeah, I think it was early
Or
80s.
something like that. It's a little.
40 years ago.
Yeah, it's been a minute.
Okay,
Yeah, I'm not.
but they never did exercise their taxing.
From what I remember, no, or there was a reason that they couldn't levy or didn't want to. And they just disbanded and became advisory
Correct.
until last year. Was it
Well,
last
that
year?
was-
I can't remember.
That was before. Help me. You gotta go back and marry. Ritz, that was before Ritz. Ritz might
Actually, I
have
think
done
he
it.
may have been the signature.
I think he was a signature.
That was forever ago. Yeah, he's older than you.
Something I forgot to ask. I've had tons of people ask me this way to get that question over with. Did we buy a $45,000 or a $65,000 Christmas tree?
We did buy a Christmas tree. It was not, what did you say, 45 or 60?
Dave says 45, 65. I mean, there's been so many numbers.
The
and
Christmas
so many
tree,
questions.
memory serves me correctly, was 30,000. So it's an artificial tree for commercial application to be used during the holiday season in the city of Tipton. Comes from community feedback last year asking for a tree lighting ceremony.
So we bought a $30,000 Christmas tree.
Correct.
I'll ask again, who's they?
Well, in my business, you got people coming in all the time asking you questions. So,
Really?
I've
Oh,
heard
yeah.
that too.
You know, you can always tell them they can always come and ask for a FOIA.
well, they come to me because I'm a city councilman. They ask me questions and I said, I will ask that question so you can have an answer. That's my job.
Was that real or artificial?
Artificial.
Cool.
That's the only reason I asked that, because I've had tons of people asking me that question.
That helps.
That'll go at
Wait a
the
minute,
plaza.
we're gonna keep on this conversation.
No,
Hey,
I was
how
answering
many, how many tons?
a lot.
A lot, okay.
About
That'll
every
go-
day I've got somebody.
Mayor, that'll go at the green space.
We're still working out those details to confirm it for this year, but the expectation is to work through the procedures, of the operating agreement. And
Could have been that. Jefferson Lane.
Yeah.
Yeah, set them on fire.
Go like the lead balloon.
do you have something? Okay.
You just wait for you guys
Yes.
to get done.
Please interrupt.
Yes, please. Bob Edinger, Chipton. My mind is still going on these $1.36 million CDs. How long have we had those?
Before I was clerk treasurer,
Yeah, Star Financial's records that they had easy access to showed that they were in existence in the mid-90s. So they've likely predated the mid-90s. Now, they certainly weren't to that denomination. They've accrued interest over the years, but the original investment or deposit was made in the 90s.
Okay. And that shows up in our cash on hand?
Correct.
How much is our cash on hand, like, for this year?
In the general fund, as of July 31st, 3,491,209.
Is that a lot?
More going.
I mean, is that a lot?
I guess it's how you look at it, I guess.
Well, there's, and I'll only give you my county experience. There's only, and that, what I'm saying is just things I've heard from accountants. And it's, there's what they call or I call a comfortable cushion. And that's always seems to be as a percentage of your
Total budget.
help me out
Your
if
budget,
if
yeah,
I'm
it's a-
going the wrong direction.
It's a recommended reserve. So
Yeah.
Reedy like all of the financial advisors, when you do your budget every year, and when you're doing your forecasting, they have a recommended reserve. It's usually based off of a percentage of your total budget that you should have for emergencies.
And that helps. And I think I understand your question because I philosophically feel the same way you do. Government shouldn't have savings accounts. We shouldn't have savings accounts for other people's money, but yet you gotta have some reasonable.
Well, and I absolutely agree with that. I'm just wondering what that reasonable amount is. If a person needs to collect as much money as they do every year. But that answers that question.
I believe based on the budgeting with Reedy, the recommendation for the general fund is 50%.
It's usually 6 months.
Yeah.
6 months of expenditures.
Yeah.
Because there's always risk of not collecting property taxes. The county doesn't collect property taxes.
Right, but you still have police, fire,
Police bills to pay.
street, all that too.
Yeah.
Those people like getting paid.
So we technically we would still fall below that 50% metric at our current cash balance.
No, I was just asking on
Mhm.
At I believe it was the last meeting, and I think Rich was going to address it. I see the city planning commission didn't meet again this month, but I find no cancellation notices on the website. I'm just curious as to why that happens, or who's supposed to do what, or haven't came across anyone who could tell me other than if I look, it still shows today that it wasn't canceled.
Are those meetings on the city's website?
I'm looking at
On-
the calendar on the county side, but it has.
Oh, okay. So, okay.
And I was just curious as to why that happens, because I don't think it serves the public very well to come up here when there's no meeting.
Mhm.
Well, just my experience, it's the responsibility of the chair.
Right.
But if the chair gets here and there's not a quorum, then he's somewhat helpless to the situation. I understand what you're saying. You walked up here and no meeting.
I got an email on the cancellation, but I can't save my rear end to remember what exactly it said. There's been a lot of days between then and now, but I believe that there was no business.
You know if that was determined that day?
Do not.
Is that something you could find out for me?
I probably could.
I mean, I requested that last time, but if you could, I'd appreciate that. I just don't think it serves the public very well, that calendar, and if it's not gonna serve the public, I see no purpose to the calendar. Although I think the calendar does good things, but if it's not accurate, yeah. I know on a couple votes tonight, a couple people abstained. What are the rules on abstaining on a vote?
An abstention is, for the purposes of the motion, I consider it a no vote.
But are there rules when you can abstain, or can you just abstain because you don't want to vote, or I thought there was rules on it.
The only rule was fiduciary interest, but I could be wrong about that.
What did you say? I didn't hear you.
Fiduciary interest.
Just more of a conflict of interest.
But I'm not, I don't know who made up that rule.
I mean, I was just wondering why the people who abstained tonight, why they abstained.
I always abstain on a claim docket if my company's listed. I've been advised I don't have to by city legal counsel, but I don't feel comfortable, and I've done that for 6 years.
Right.
So mine is a conflict of
So that would
interest.
be a fiduciary.
Yeah.
Yes.
interest.
To not vote on.
Correct. I mean, it's literally the tiniest amount, but it's just something I don't feel
I
comfortable with.
understand that. I mean, that way there's no appearance.
And I'm sure if it makes a difference on the budget passing, you're gonna,
I will always vote yes or no. Otherwise, I won't abstain
if there's
unless
only 3 people, you're gonna
there's a
vote.
conflict of interest. Yeah. I haven't had to do that yet, thankfully. But
I was just wondering, Tim, why you abstained?
I didn't. I voted no.
I
Tonight,
did.
Rich vote, he sustained,
I
I didn't,
abstained.
I voted no.
I abstain because I don't feel comfortable with it. I don't completely understand of it. I didn't feel like I should vote it no or yes either one.
And I voted no because I didn't feel comfortable with some of the cuts. Keegan gets to see a lot more stuff than I see, so he understands it much better than I do, and he's doing his job. But I didn't fully understand some of the cuts, that's why I voted no.
Were you saying the information wasn't available?
There's information there, I just didn't feel comfortable with the cuts.
Oh, I thought you said he had more information.
Well, no, he gets to see the budget a lot longer than I do. I get a few weeks to look at it. He's working on it a few months, so he knows a lot more about it than I do. I come to Tammy or Keegan and ask those questions, but I just didn't feel comfortable with some of the cuts, so I voted no on it.
The last thing, I came to city, county meetings for a long time. Short of 20 years, but, and I certainly have encouraged people forever to come to meetings, ask questions, come here and find out. Because over time, I've had hundreds of people ask me what went on, which I'll tell them what went on when they ask me. I encourage them to come. And I would hope that anyone who comes to meetings and asks questions certainly passes along the answers that they receive. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
I move we adjourn.
Second.
The motion is second to adjourn the meeting. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Meeting adjourned.
It's full, isn't it? Yeah. Get all the signatures in.